Hello and welcome to this video. My name is David Thorne. In a previous video I talked about how to access removable volumes, basically, and I showed you how to do that. And you can see this is the workspace that we created. And I talked about that I wanted to create an application to be able to access, and this is my DJI drone hard drive that's inside my DJI drone right now, that I'm going to access. And I want to be able to write an application that can just extract all of these files and then place them on, more than likely, this hard drive here, which is on my Mac Mini, which is actually at home, but on my Mac Mini on the network, and save the files to that in a nice to a year and then month and then day folder, and then leave some of the other junk behind that you can see, for example, like these LRF files and so on. I don't want these. I just want to be able to transfer the files straight over to there and make the directories when possible. And so on. So that's the main aim of it. And in this video, we're going to create a basic version of just listing out the files, and that's it. First of all, just to show you how I would do this. And this is going to be a Mac OS application, and we're going to call this DJI backup. All right, we'll just call it DJI, SwiftUI, language Swift, and storage. You could use Swift data here for the sake of checking to see what the actual state is of that one file on it, and so on, to see whether it has backed it up or not. But we're not going to do that. Okay, but we can, however, close down the simulator. We don't need that anymore. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to have a simple view that starts off, and it's just going to access all of the volumes. All right, and then the volumes, we're going to go inside of that one volume, and then we're going to access a folder, and then we're going to keep going until we access a file, basically. And that's as far as we're going to go in this one video. All right, and so this is basically it. This is like, let's call it part one. I don't know whether I'll make a part two, but this is then just part one of how I would do it. So we're going to need a let's just make a file here for saying models for any files that we're going to create. And I suppose we'd want to have a struct for a volume, and this is then going to be identifiable and hashable. It might want to be codable, but right now we're just going to do the name of the actual volume, and then URL, let's say file path URL, and we'll just call it URL instead, and that would do for the time being. So we have this, all right? So we can come to back to our app, and inside here we'll say state var volumes here, and say volume, and we'll say it's going to be empty in the beginning, and we'll come here and we'll say list, and it's going to be volumes, and the ID is then going to be equal to the ID, and let's just say volumes here, and we need and inside of here we're going to want a navigation link, and we're going to say value is then volume. And then the label is going to be a label, and it's going to be volume, and then name with a system here, and it's going to say external drive here. Okay, so we don't have any as of yet, but we will want to put this inside of a navigation stack as well. So let's plop that in there, and then just say destination for volume, and say self, and this is then going to be in the beginning a text here to say volume, because we're probably going to reuse the same code as well anyway. All right, so let's now come down to here and say a task. We'll extract this in a minute to another file, and we're going to have a do catch block, catch, and say error here, and we'll have states var error, and we'll just say error here. All right, and self error is equal to error. And if there's an error, well, actually we can just, rather than doing there, we could just say if let error equals error, we'll say text error local here. Otherwise we will show this one list. Happy days. Okay, now we have the error. We want a file manager which we can put through the environment, right? So let's say file manager is file manager, and let's come down here, say this one here, file manager default. Happy days. We can't do that, so let's just say we don't need that. We can just do it up here because it's nice and lightweight anyway. And we can remove that again. I don't need that. And let's say then contents equals file manager contents of directory at path. And we will just come up here and say the root path string, and this will be the volumes, because that's all we're interested in is volumes. So we'll just come here at the path, and now we have the volumes is going to be equal to contents and map, and this is going to do the here and then that there, and then file path is going to be let's just say, let's put this on a new line because it's easier and more tidier, and let's just do here, and the file path, so the URL is going to be we want a URL and file path with URL, and that is going to be root path plus, and we'll then do plus $0, and this is going to be a volume, and then we come to the file path URL here. Okay, we need a try in this as well, and okay, yeah, obviously, and let's just call this path in here, right, because it seems a bit better. That seems to be working. Path as well, it seems to be working, and this should come up with the information that we want it on the right hand side now when I've done it all correctly, which I'm pretty certain I have. And there we go, they're all come up now, right, and it goes over to the correct page. Okay, so now we can come to here and we can say volume. So let's say volume contents here, and we'll just say this is a view, and this is pretty much going to be reused here, and we will do this there, and we know already that it's got a destination, and we're going to say volume here, and we're going to pass this volume in. We are going to do the same task for the time being inside of here, right? But we're going to make it a lot better in a minute. We're going to say state volumes 2 in here, okay, and then the root path here, root path is going to be then volume, and then file path, and then path here. Okay, that's going to be the root path to this. We cannot find file manager. Okay, we want the file manager once again. No problem. There's going to be a little bit of duplication here, but we're all right with that. We're all right with that, and we can say this error actually we want inside of here. This is going to be, yeah, inside of there instead. Okay, happy days. All right, so that's now fulfills that error. And now when we come to here, volume contents, we should be able to come to here and say volume contents and volume. I hope when we come to this, Okay, there we go. So we've now got the relevant, the message that we wanted, right? Everything's working fine, and we've got our error message that we want. Okay, but this is the volume that we are interested in, this DJI one here. Okay, so let's come down here and make a navigation title and say volume name here. And we come to this here, and now we get the drive that we want. So the next task is obviously to come to our entitlements file, change it to not be sandboxed. Come back to the content view, sorry. Come to this one here, and we should now be reading it. Yes, super. So we want access to it, and we'll say allow, and now we have these one files. And now we can come even further, and now we have the file itself, right? And once we've got that, it can't be opened, right? So this is, I said we're only going to go that far, right? So now you can see that we've managed to get the folder that we want, all right? So we know that these exist. So now let's come here and let's just make a folder and say views, and let's just clean this up now, and let's just make a SwiftUI view. And do that. Come back to here and take that out. Take that out. Happy days there. And let's fix all this so we can have a preview of this as well. And UUID, and we'll call this SSD 1 terabyte, so we know it's there all the time. And the URL is file path with URL is in volumes and SSD 1 TB. Happy days, that's there, and we get what we expected to see. All right, nice one. So that's that bit done there. Let's clean this up now. Let's have a look at this. These states, in my opinion, sit at the top. You might have your own opinion about that, which I'm all right with. We now want some form of contents of your. Now we want to make some form of service, or say, and we'll say volume service. Let's say removable volume service in here. And this can be a class removable, and it can be an observable object. Come to here, and we'll say get volumes first of all, and this is going to be that there, and we'll pop that in there instead. And we need a file manager, so let's make a file manager here, file manager default, which you could pass that in if you wanted it to be. File manager here is then file manager is equal to default, so we could take that away like that. So we now have that, and volumes. So really we want to return volumes instead of doing that. So let's just return the volumes there, and catch, we're going to return empty volumes there because we don't care, right? And the root path is going to be root path is going to be a string, and this is then going to be volumes because it's obviously the volumes here. And oh yeah, we want, sorry, why did I put URL there? We want volumes. There we go, and we'll say self file manager is equal to file manager. That should be that's solved there. So now we can come back to our main project here and say states objects var, and let's, what do we call it, volume service and removable volume service, and we can do that. And now we can place it in, because we're iOS 17 and above, and it's only going to be for me, we can place it inside of here as well, which means within inside of our removable, within inside of our view here, we can actually access the environment instead, and we're just going to call it service, so removable volume service here instead. And this allows us to say volumes equals, and service gets volumes root path, and we have the root path here, there, and place that in there, and we should be able to just uncomment that out. We still need to add the environment object here of removable service there, and when we run this, this should still be working. Let's rerun this, and it is still working. All right, so if we, yeah, it's still working. So now we can remove the file manager here. We got the volume, the error we can remove as well, and we can remove all this. We haven't got an error anymore, so we can just put this to there, this to there instead. Happy days. That's still working. Come back to our content view. We can do this once again, so let's just copy back here instead. Content view like that. Volumes here, and this volume is obviously going to be volume here, and UUID. Name is, let's just call this volumes, and URL file path with here is then going to be volumes. Nice one. Service we don't have, so let's just do environment objects service, and then removable volume service is here. We'll add it to the environment objects. Removable service is there. We can take that all away now. We have the service, we have the root path, we have everything that we need. Happy days. That's all working still, so that means we can remove the file path, and we have the root path can come there too, and the error we don't need anymore, and which means we can take this out and put it in there instead. Remove all of this, and yeah, what we can also do here is published here is to say an error instead, right? And if there is an error here, we can say self error is equal to error, right? And then when we're inside of this, we could just display a error service error here, and instead do this, right, and place that in there, and place, whoops, error there, and run that instead. And now we come back to our sandbox and turn the sandbox off. Come back to the content view, we're all fine, and we are still okay. Don't allow. We are not getting the error there because we are getting some error. Did we get an error there? Let's run it on the Mac and see whether or not we actually get an error there. It's on the content view, but technically we're still okay. So we do get an error there. Happy days. So we've got an error there, but we're still on the backup, so we have to really come back over to the content view here, and we will say once again if let error equal to service error else here, and we will say here error and instead, and rerun this again, see what we get, and we should get the error coming there, and okay, that's interesting. I'm not sure why it's doing that, but we'll find out in a second. Let's just have another look. Okay, so it is doing that. Well, let's make a VStack then, and I don't understand quite why that's doing that. Let's just run this again. Let's have a look at why it's doing. And let's do PO error. Okay, that's interesting. So it's actually displaying it correctly, right? It's actually displaying the text is actually there correct, but for some reason, where are you here? Come on. Okay, anyway, this is not super important. Let's just display the error. So there was an error here instead. Okay, and let's see what this one does now. No, okay, let's come back to the main view. And let's put this in here instead. And let's rerun this. I'm guessing it's because this is triggering up here, right? There we go. That's because this one was triggering 2 because of the service was also getting the error, which was meaning that this one was changing the stack on it because volume contents is already on there. So you could just add the error down here, I suppose, binding like this, and do error. Actually, no, we can just do binding error is equal to here. Right, and then have that instead if error is equal to error there instead, and then come back to the content view and we'll pass the error on as service.error and do a binding there. Instead, now when we rerun this, we miss an argument, yes, and just do constants and nil, and rerun it, and we get the error as we should do instead. Okay, so the volume contents is getting the error based upon this binding now rather than this service, because the service is updating and it's then re-rendering this because there was a change from this one published error. And then that re-rendered this volume contents for us, sending it back down again, and then we came here instead. With that said, I think let's just kind of maybe tidy this up just a tad, and we'll come here and say SSD drive, and say volume, that there, and put that in there. Do return and put that on the line. Let's just do this. That's not very nice, that. And let's say, oh, we've done something wrong here. What have we got wrong? SSD drive, don't want that. There we go. Okay, we're missing a curly braces here. I'm missing that. That's there. Let's do that. That's better. Okay, so now we want to do return volume contents, the SSD volume, and that's going to be nil. That's better. Yes, and then add the environment object, which is removable service. Rerun this again, and all good. Okay, so but because we don't have an error because we never added one here, so this is why it doesn't have an error, because we said come to that instead, and when we run there, we get it all working perfectly fine. Okay, let's come back to the content view and make sure we're running fine here. Yep, we're getting an error. Happy days. So with that said, I'm going to leave this one video here because it's gone far enough. We really now that we have the sandbox working as such, the next thing that we really want to do is we want the DJI volume, and let's just rebuild this maybe. What happened there? Okay, we need to just remove the build directory, rerun it again, and we can come to this file here. So this is now what we need to find some way of listening for this one folder here. And inside of this, we need to have some way of checking through these and then filtering them based upon their file extension, and so have like some kind of like allowed file extension on here and so on, because this application is all about DJI backup. It's not about anything else but DJI backup. With that said, I hope that you've got something interesting out of this one video. I hope you've maybe learnt something from it. This video is just really for me. I'm just making it because it's a interesting little project to do, and I thought whilst I'm doing it, I might as well upload it to YouTube as well. And so on. With that said, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, do all of the social media things that you can do. If you've got any comments, question, feedback, concerns, or even enhancements that we could have made to this, I'm totally interested to hear what you say. So let's start a conversation down in the comment section down below. Other than that, thanks very much for watching. My name is David Thorne, and I'll see you in the next video. Ciao, ciao, and goodbye.